In this video, I'm going to discuss 3 tips for selling your small business. Hi, my name is Kevin Henderson, and I'm a corporate mergers and acquisitions attorney based in Dallas, Texas, and this is my YouTube series, ETA Today, where I discuss topics ranging from mergers and acquisitions, buying and selling small businesses, and entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship through acquisition generally. If you like these topics, hit the subscribe button and follow along. But for now, let's jump into today's topic, 3 tips for selling your small business. This could be a 2-hour video. I could have easily called it 84 tips for selling your small business, but time's precious. So I'm focusing on 3 tips that I consider to be important, but curious what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments if you disagree or have different tips that you think are most important. Would love to hear it. But for now, let's dig in. Tip number 1 is get your house in order. This is arguably the most important step in getting your business ready to sell. And that's making sure that you, as a business owner, are ready to sell your business. That means spending some time brainstorming and being honest with yourself. How much longer do you want to work in this business? How much longer do you need to work in this business? And how important to you, personally, professionally, is it that your business success is in a place to be successful without you? This is where a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck in the day-to-day. They're in the monotony, they're working the business, they're working deep in the business, and sometimes that means we can kind of be terrible delegators. We have a vision for maybe where we want our business to go, but that may mean that we have a hard time giving up control and delegating some of the important tasks to other people. We're usually rolling up our sleeves and digging in deep. But that means when you get to the point where you want to sell your business, you may find it's a little bit tough to divorce yourself from your business and have it in a place where someone else can step in and continue the amazing success that you've built. So take a look at your organization fundamentally. Start to identify the people that have knowledge of key areas, that can take ownership of key areas, and make sure that you're appropriately delegating things to those people. For example, if you're really deep in your business finances, and I suspect as an entrepreneur, you probably are, you understand better than anyone in your business the cost structure of how you run that business. But how is a new owner going to step in and understand all of that institutional knowledge and vision that you have for your business if you haven't been imparting some of that to some of your employees that are going to stay behind? Does someone in your business have a good understanding or handle on your marketing and your marketing strategy? What about your sales organization? Are you heavily involved in your sales, or is there someone who understands those customer relationships and can keep that sales process going? If any of these core functions are so dependent on you that your business can't really function if you were to take an extended leave of absence, you need to spend the time to either start transitioning those functions to other people, or if you don't have people that you can transition them to, and you may not, you need to spend the time and sit down and work through a high quality transition plan so that you have something you can show a buyer that when they start on day 1 after closing, that they're going to have a system in place, a backstop to be able to understand that cost structure, your vision for how you're controlling costs in your business, how you're running your sales organization. The last part of tip number 1, which is preparing yourself, right, is to review your time. Do you actually have the time to sell your business? I think a lot of sellers get tripped up here. They think, well, I'll hire a broker. I'll hire a great broker that'll go out. They're going to do all the legwork. They're going to bring me a buyer. I'll have a phone call or 2, maybe a meeting here and there. But by and large, the broker's going to get this done for me, and that's what I'm paying them for. That is a huge mistake. If you don't have your house in order, which includes allocating the appropriate time to the sales process, you're going to set yourself up for failure in your sales process. It doesn't matter how great your broker is, you're going to have countless meetings, site visits by the buyer, by the buyer's professional advisors, document requests for diligence, training, whether that's internally to turn over some of those functions we talked about, or with the buyer to get the buyer prepared to take over the business. You really need to think of the sales process as a part-time job on top of the full-time job that you already have running your business. And if you aren't ready to take on that type of time commitment, you need to take the time to think about what you need to do to be able to devote enough time to the sales process to have it be a smooth and successful process for you and your buyer. That takes me to tip number 2, and this is a big one. Valuation. You have to spend time focusing on the valuation of your business, and this is probably the single largest roadblock I see in the sales process, and that is an unrealistic expectation for your sales price. Now, if you work with a really great, high-quality broker, they're going to be invaluable on this step, right? They will walk you through step by step how to value your business and set reasonable expectations for what you can sell your business for. If you work with a bad broker that sets unrealistic expectations, it can unnecessarily prolong an already very difficult and time-consuming process. And one of my mantras that I'm always telling my clients is time kills deals. The longer you prolong your process, the higher risk you have of not getting to the closing table and having a successful sale. So you need to really understand the nature of your business and what the normal trading multiples are in your industry. For example, if you're an HVAC company and you're doing $1 million of profit a year, in business parlance, EBITDA, right? You've got $1 million of EBITDA. You're probably not going to get a 6 or 7x multiple on that EBITDA or $6 or $7 million because that's not generally what HVAC companies sell for. Now, is that impossible? No, but it's not impossible to find a unicorn. There may be one out there, right? And this doesn't mean don't stretch by any means, but it means set realistic expectations. So if you go into this process knowing that your HVAC company typically in the market sells for a 4 or 4.5x multiple, this doesn't mean stretch and ask for maybe 5.5x, because who knows? You may get the upper hand in negotiation and be able to negotiate a 5x or maybe 4 3/4 multiple when your realistic expectation was 4 to 4.5. So that can work to your advantage. But if you go into the sales process expecting I'm going to get 6x EBITDA, 6 times my profit, $6 million in my example, and you refuse to budge, then you're going to set yourself up for failure. You're going to see a revolving door of buyer after buyer getting excited about your business, getting excited about your profitability, digging into your financials and getting excited to do a deal, and then getting discouraged because you're asking for way more money than what would typically be expected for a business of your type. Now, part of the exercise of being realistic about the valuation is add backs. And if you don't know what add backs are, very briefly, and I can do a separate video on this, add backs are financial expenses that you incur in your business that generally lower your profitability, but that maybe aren't expenses that a buyer will continue to incur after the closing. Let's take maybe an egregious but classic example. You drive a 2023 Ford Raptor. It's an extremely expensive truck. It's the truck you've always wanted, and it's a truck you use in your business, so you perhaps rightfully bought that truck through your business. But that truck isn't necessary to run the business. So when your buyer is looking at buying your company and understanding the financial picture, they want to understand the financial picture of that business without your Ford Raptor, right? That's an add back. You're going to add back the expenses of that Ford Raptor because they're expenses that the company won't incur after the closing. The buyer won't have them. He's going to ask you to keep your Ford Raptor and pay it off yourself, which is great for you. But when preparing your financials, one of the areas that sellers get into a lot of trouble is they get really aggressive with the add backs. And why is that? Well, if you listen to the terminology add back, you are adding expenses back in to the profitability of the company. When you reverse out the expense of that truck, it increases the profitability of the business. And so a very aggressive seller is going to add back as many things as possible, maybe even getting a little too aggressive and adding back some expenses that the buyer should realistically expect to have after the closing. And this is where disagreements tend to occur between buyers and sellers, because the buyer understandably wants to know exactly what the ongoing profitability would be if the normal steady state of business keeps going with the expenses that you've incurred. but they don't necessarily want to know unreasonable expenses. Let me give you one final example. Let's suppose you're a tech junkie and you decided to buy a state-of-the-art $5,000 desktop computer to work in your business because you love technology, you wanted the latest and greatest of everything. As an add back, you may say, okay, state-of-the-art computer, it's not fully necessary to run the business. That's an expense that the buyer wouldn't have. We're going to add back the $5,000. The seller or the buyer, on the other hand, is going to say, well, I don't need a $5,000 computer, but presumably I need a computer. So you can't add back the whole $5,000. Maybe just add back $3,000 because $2,000 would be a reasonable approximation of what a high quality computer for a business would be. Those are the types of disagreements that buyers and sellers can get into, and you need to be realistic with what you're adding back to the business so that you get an accurate valuation of what your company's worth. Otherwise, again, you set yourself up for disagreement and potential failure in the sales process over a fundamental disagreement on the value of your business. The more honest you are with yourself during this internal valuation process, the smoother the sales process is going to go and the happier you and your buyer are going to be. So that brings me to the third tip. The third tip is build a high quality team in the sales process. Now don't worry, high quality does not have to mean expensive, but it does mean you need to put in the legwork to find high quality advisors that are going to do right by you and help you maximize your value, but still get to the closing table. Remember, time kills deals. And if you pick or hire advisors that unnecessarily prolong the sales process, then you may be setting yourself up to potentially lose a buyer after months of negotiation and expense. And nobody wants that. So what does this mean? A seller generally needs a few professional advisors. There may be more, but the principal ones are a broker, an accountant, and legal counsel. So start first with a broker. A broker can absolutely make or break your transaction. A good, high-quality broker will be invaluable to your sales process because they're going to be realistic with you about your valuation. They're going to help you prepare high-quality marketing materials, including those adjusted financials that we just talked about. And they're going to put in the legwork to source high-quality buyers that you are in a position to choose from. Now, a bad broker will do the opposite. They're going to set unrealistically high expectations. They're going to prepare marketing materials that set unrealistic expectations with the buyer that lead to later frustration in the negotiation process as the truth comes out. For example, again, think about those add backs. And the most egregious thing I usually see when I represent buyers with bad brokers on the other side of the transaction is that those brokers are a gatekeeper that turn away high quality buyer leads over unreasonable requests. And I see this over and over again. High quality buyers ready to transact on a high quality transaction reaches out to a broker for more information, and that broker sends them an NDA that has crazy provisions in it, a non-compete just to look at the marketing materials, an agreement by the buyer to pay the broker's commission if the seller refuses to pay it, deposits that have to be paid up front before the buyer can even see the marketing materials. These are all way over the top asks. And if those buyers appropriately and correctly push back on that broker and say, no thanks, I'm not going to do that, then those brokers refuse to engage with the buyer. And the worst part about that is you as a seller may never even know that that high quality buyer ready to transact even reached out to you because that broker is acting as a gatekeeper. Good brokers, like I said, can be invaluable to your process, but it's worth your time to put in the legwork to find a high quality broker that understands your industry, that sets realistic expectations and runs a high quality sales process where they qualify good buyers and send those buyers to you to make a choice of who you want to select to buy your business. Interview lots of brokers, ask for references, and most importantly, check those references. I can't tell you how many people ask for references and then never actually call and check on them. For the accountants, I won't say much. If you're running a successful small business, you likely already have an accountant, but if you don't, having a good accountant on board in the sales process is very important because transactional accounting and tax is much different than simple personal income tax. And if your existing accountant just does your personal income tax and doesn't have experience with buying and selling businesses, it's very important to go out, interview some high quality accountants that are experienced in the mergers and acquisitions space so that they can help you, again, with valuation, with structuring the transaction to minimize your tax exposure, etc. There are lots of great value add that a high quality accountant will bring to your team. And finally, legal. Just like a bad broker, bad legal can make or break your deal. And you would be shocked what I have seen, right? I've seen lawyers that yell on conference calls, not only at the opposing party, but at their own clients. I've seen lawyers that take 2 months, and I'm not kidding, that's not an exaggeration, 2 months to review a purchase agreement and send comments back. Remember my mantra, time kills deals. Lawyers that used to be prosecutors, but decided to recently hang out a shingle and they'll take on anything that will bring revenue through the door, deciding to do this M&A deal. If you don't hire experienced mergers and acquisitions, or a lawyer experienced in mergers and acquisitions for your transaction, you're doing yourself a disservice. Believe me. It can be tempting to save a few bucks to go with your estate planning lawyer or your cousin's old fraternity brother that does divorces and family law. But trust me when I tell you, saving those dollars will come back to bite you. High quality M&A counsel doesn't have to be expensive. There are lots of really, really good, affordable lawyers who know the M&A space in and out. Interview them, talk to lots of them. If they refuse to talk to you without you paying them first, huge red flag. If they refuse to give you references or hide behind confidentiality, huge red flag. Trust me, there are no confidentiality concerns providing client references as long as the client provides advanced written consent to the lawyer. Any good lawyer in the transactional space will have a long list of happy clients who would be more than happy to consent to acting as a reference. Remember the mantra once again, and I'll end with this: time kills deals. If you're getting quotes for $50,000 of legal fees on a $5 million transaction, but you decide to go with your cousin's fraternity brother that's a divorce lawyer because he'd do it for $25,000, stop and ask yourself, is slowing down your deal with an inexperienced lawyer really worth $25,000 when you stand to gain $5 million on that sale? That's 0.5%. And believe me, it will be 0.5% very well spent. So do yourself a favor and make sure that you select high quality legal counsel, a high quality broker, and a good accountant that understands the mergers and acquisitions process, and you will be better off. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this video or you like videos like this, please hit the subscribe button. And if there's a topic that you want me to discuss in future videos about M&A, about small businesses, about entrepreneurship, buying and selling, drop me a comment, and I'll see you in the next video.